Kia ora e te whānau and welcome to Catherine Parr's Light. Today's conversation is one that will expand your awareness and open your heart to what's truly possible when you remember who you really are. My guest is Blair Styra, who many will know as the channel for the Ascended Master and Spirit Being, Tabash. Blair has spent decades sharing teachings that remind us of our divine nature, that we are not separate from Source, but direct expressions of it. In this conversation, we explore what it means to awaken to our inner power and to live as conscious creators, as gods walking here on earth, shaping our realities through choice, awareness, and energy. We talk about the journey of channeling, daily spiritual practice, and the importance of grounding this work into everyday life. Blair shares beautiful wisdom about how awareness is the key to self-development and how every experience is a mirror reflecting our inner world. We also dive into the distinction between spiritual awakening and mental health, and how alignment with your true self is the foundation for well-being. So wherever you are listening from today, take a deep breath, soften your energy, and open your mind. Because this episode is all about remembering that you are the creator of your life and that your light has the power to help awaken others too. Let's turn the lights on together. Kia ora, Blair. Welcome to the show. It is a privilege and honor, and I am just so excited about what we're going to talk about today.
Well, the privilege and honor is mine as well. And
Yeah.
thank you so much for inviting me to do this podcast. I love doing stuff like this, and it's such a easy way of sharing with people. And I always like the informality of doing something like this, as opposed to, being in a TV studio or on a radio station and that type of thing, basically. So, but yeah, kia ora, and thank you very much. So appreciate it.
So, let's talk a little bit into who you are. I mean, for those that don't know you, which I feel sorry for you because you're amazing. But we'll soon get to know exactly who you are. So what is it that makes you Blair? And then also what is it that you do for a job?
Yeah. Well, let's start off with what I do for a job,
Okay.
because when I look at that, I mean, it just so encompasses my life, and um, I suppose we all have lots and lots of different identities, but sometimes we have incarnations where we pay a lot of focus onto a particular identity, not just because it serves other people, but it's a way of serving yourself as well. And so I'm a channel, and I channel a spirit called Tabash, which is that dude in the portrait up there. I've been channeling him publicly for almost 37 years now, in New Zealand, but I work internationally as well. And I would say that my work has very much defined the way I think, the way I feel, the way I live my life. It's certainly supported my life in every way possible. And it's such a good way to look at, I suppose, any career that you have or any vocation that people have. And if you really do enjoy what you're doing and investing well in what you're doing and evolving with what you're doing, then you realize that, yeah, this is here to support my growth and my development. So, I'm not just a vessel for spirit's energy. I'm aligned to source all of the time now. So basically, I've got access to the power of life 24/7, as we all do, but I'm just more conscious of that. And to me, one of the things I've realized is that any form of self-development is actually activating within us awareness. And of course, people look at awareness and they automatically think about spiritual stuff, etc. But to me, I've realized awareness is the awareness of life. And when you have an awareness of life, you're aware of the formulas that make life up. So obviously, the most basic formula that we understand is the formula of mind, body, spirit. And when we activate that particular formula, that opens up other formulas that represent us as individuals. So this is where it shows us our qualities as human beings. It shows us the stories that we've brought with us into the life that we're living, and how we're using those stories, and how we're investing in those stories. But also it shows us, in some ways, stories that we may have brought with us that are no longer able to be good for us. And that, I suppose we'll just call it, we bring karma with us.
Yeah.
And
What to do.
but yeah, yeah. But the concept of karma is interesting, as Tabash has taught me that karma is just a belief system. And has he explained to me that originally we're all light beings, and as light beings, we had access to all of life on all dimensions in every way possible. And so there was no degrees of separation. He calls it, there was just a one thought consciousness. But then gradually, as he says, um, people became humanized. So as we became more humanized, we got involved more in the human story. And in doing that, we started to get further and further away from ourselves as light beings. And of course, light beings is the version of ourselves that has all the power, that is totally connected to source. And of course, as we became more humanized, we got more involved in Earth and the laws of physics, et cetera, et cetera. And until we got to a point where we forgot. It was a bit like this divine amnesia, where we just thought we were human in our nature rather than higher in our nature. And in all the years I've been doing what I've been doing, it's been fascinating watching us evolve. And I think what we're now doing is we're dehumanizing ourselves and going back to our light selves. And in going back to our light selves, we're able to direct our human selves through the light.
Mm.
And so this is very much the position that we're all in. Some know this more consciously, others don't. But it's just what's happening. And I love the way Tabash defines enlightenment as to be in light of life, to be in light of yourself. So you've just simply gone to your light energies, or sometimes he puts it, you've just gone into the room of your life and you turn the lights on.
Mm.
And when you turn the lights on, you realize that, well, there's the simplicity of being high consciousness in just a day-to-day way when you walk around with the lights on. And we can all do this without having to get overt in spiritual practices. It's just really, walking through life with the lights on, making, the formula mind, body, spirit a day-to-day thing, which I don't think is a difficult thing to do. So, well, I
Says the
mean,
pro.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, look, like anybody, you can still trip up, or, you know, that type of thing. But, when you've got access to consciousness, you have that awareness, and it just makes you more aware of self. It's just there, and you can't really get away from it. So it's like this energy that's sort of pushing at you all of the time in a good way, and we can't ignore that fact anymore. And if we do, well, then it's not that that's wrong, but that would just maintain people's struggles and limited ways of seeing things. Well, they just go down the long road rather than, hey, hang on a minute, this is quite basic and simple and easy, etc. So, so as a channel, it's just plugged me to source, and therefore, in doing so, it's made me aware of who I am as a man, a person, a human being, an individual, and things. I mean, obviously, I have interests, and I do things that thrill me or excite me or challenge me. And I always like to learn different things. I've just signed up for a course in archery, actually. And yeah, yeah, I've always wanted to do it, but, circumstances, in the past, I couldn't do it, but now I can. So I thought, yeah, let's go do it. And I think we should all try life but obviously stuff that feels natural to you. And I've never been a person who says, "Oh well, I'll go and do that and see what happens." It's more, no, I'm going to do that because I want to do that, and I know that will happen, and that's mind, body, and spirit. And I think people can be a bit too random in, I wonder what that's all about. And so, I think that if you stand still and observe and you consider, well, what's really natural to me,
Mm,
in my mind, in my body, in my spirit, what, makes my soul sing.
mm,
And that's why, with Tabash and Spirit has taught us, we're on a planet that's experiential. So we're here to experience life. And it's not the same for everybody. And even though you have many people maybe doing similar things, everyone does it differently. And that's exciting because it gives us all an opportunity to speak our voices metaphorically, but also just experience and discover and explore.
mm,
When you look at, we're on a planet that is adventurous and exciting and beautiful and sort of full of life. If you have the chance to explore it, then I think you have to. And okay, it's obviously relative to everyone's experiences, but even if it's just in your own little town or city or whatever, be the best version of yourself you can in that experience. So yeah. So I
mm.
don't look up myself at like some sort of big new agey, sort of floaty, sort of guru type of person. I'm just a guy with a strange job. That was a long answer to a short question.
Fabulous. That was a great answer.
Thank you.
So
Some
what
water.
does and this is gonna get a little bit, just to kind of bring people into, the awareness of what you would do, in the morning. Just, like some people, they wake up in the morning, they get really mindful, they get into meditation. Is that what your morning looks like? Or you just kind of wake up in the morning? Do you have a morning ritual or
Well, I suppose I do, but it's not a big regimented thing. Um, One of the things that Tabash teaches is that we are all God.
thank you, I
And
never
so yeah, yeah. And so when I wake up in the morning, I always say, I am God. I announce that vibration. And then I will lie there for about a couple of minutes and I will think about, okay, I'm God, I am the power. So I've got this structure of the day. How shall I use my power?
Mm, mm,
And so, I just so be like, I will say, I am God using my power to be the best version of myself today.
yes.
And I did that this morning, looking at all the because I have a fairly structured day today. So I just ascertained what was what, put that energy onto that, and yeah, and then just get up and one of the things I keep doing through the day is keep reaffirming I am God.
Mm,
And I'm just sort of doing it in my head and chatting away to myself in that sense. And why I do that is, and this is interesting, the background about that. Years ago, before I was a channel, was in, this is in the 1980s, and I was getting involved in my spiritual journey. And I read a book by the actress Shirley MacLaine,
oh, yes.
and the book was called Out on a Limb. And it was her journey into her spiritual journey, her spiritual search. And she became, in some ways more famous for her spiritual books and her teachings and seminars and things she used to run than she was as an actress. Anyway, they made a television movie of that film, Out on a Limb. And in one scene, she was on the beach with this guy that she knew who was a friend who was very spiritual. And they were just sitting, chatting away. And he was talking about, spirituality and embracing this as a day-to-day part of your existence. So she just said, well, what's something you could think or say that, really just links you in all of the time? And so the character who was called David, he went and stood at the end of the beach, put his arms out, went, I am God.
Mm,
And she said in the television, she says, "I can't say God. That's just so
Yeah.
self-righteous and all that
Negative
sort of stuff." You see, and he says,
context.
"Well, he says, if you can't say that, then you're denying who you are. If you deny who you are, then how can you access what is?" And
Mm.
when that was said, it just clicked in me, and I just knew that was absolutely the way it is. So from that moment on, I started saying, "I am God." Anyway, so this got me into a couple of bit of trouble occasionally. um, the first one was, let me think now. So I was not publicly channeling, but I was just opening up a lot of doors. And I was at this spiritual seminar, and there's about maybe 30 people there. And it was a weekend workshop, and we all had to um, stand individually and announce to, the rest of the group, who we were, and so I just, when I said, "I'm Blair and I am God," right? This, you see, and then, of course, in those days it was, and still is, heavily percentage of women in the things. Well, a lot of them took umbrage to that, and because there are quite a few women in there who were quite feminist. And so then the person who was a channel, who was running this, the entities, got everyone to stand in front of me and say exactly what they were feeling about this. So basically, I got all these women standing in front of me, abusing me. Like this. Anyway, so they were all sitting looking all smug and self-righteous. And then the entity, who was actually Isis, it was a woman, it was a channel, this woman channel Isis. So Isis looked at all this woman and said, "He is God, and so are you. And what you just said to him is what you felt about yourself."
Yeah.
And of course, all these people are, well, anyway, they all ignored me after that. And the second way that it got me into a little bit of trouble was, I got interviewed on the national radio by a well-known journalist, Aaron Crosby,
Okay. Yeah.
and she eventually became the head of Radio New Zealand. Anyway, so I was invited, and we're chatting away, and it was all cool. And then she said to me, "Well, what's your philosophy? What do you believe in?" So to the whole of the country, I said, "Well, I believe I'm God, and we're all God, and
Yeah.
we're all here to teach each other how to be God." Well, she gasped and looked at me and didn't know what to say. So for about 10 seconds, there was nothing on the air because she was just. And anyway, she came back and then looked at me and said, "I don't know why, but what you just said makes total sense to me." And
Okay.
then we had a, very good interview. Anyway,
Yeah.
apparently the phone lines in Radio New Zealand were running hot. Who's this guy saying he's God? Da, 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 da.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so I got home and I had a meditation and I tuned into Tabash and I said, "Look, Tabash, I just outed myself as God to the whole of the country." And he said, and he laughed and he said to me, "Yeah," he said, "whoever gets that chance?" For most people, it's like a handful here, a handful there. But suddenly you announced who you were to a whole country, to millions of people. And he says, because of that, it evolved you. It took you to another level of consciousness. And he said, that's what happens when we come to a revelation or realization of ourselves. And in our own ways, we announce it. And we automatically lift our consciousness when we speak our truth or stand our ground or reveal ourselves in some particular way.
Yes.
And as he said, look, you don't have to go around wearing the T-shirt, I'm God, sort of stuff. But it's a frequency thing.
Yes.
And I understand that well, self-development is a vibration thing. It's a frequency thing. We're just tapping into just different levels of consciousness every moment of our existence. And it's just the way life works, the way we think, the way we feel, the way we participate. We're simply basically taking energy and we're directing it and turning it into a life experience. And something Tabash teaches is life does not happen to you. Life happens because of you. And that again makes so sense. Makes so sense. And so it's so simple.
Mm.
But because we get so caught up into our human experiences, our human stories, our human emotions, which is
Mm.
okay because, we're on earth, so we have them.
Okay.
But we need to balance it out,
Mm,
with something different. It's not better, it's just different.
mm,
And so, it's like technology, without technology, we won't be having this interview. And so it's bringing all the right formulas in and components in and opportunities in, and you put it together. And I think that's what we're doing every day of our existence. Every day we wake up, we have life again. And every day we decide what we're going to do with it. And so it's not, you know, why am I here? What's it all about, et cetera, et cetera. It's more, well, I'm here and I've got a chance to do something with who I am on this particular day. And for most of us, that would be through our jobs, through our families, et cetera, et cetera. And then, we also do it through our leisure times and our activities, et cetera. So we're just always in the opportunity of expressing, exploring, and advancing by the simple act of living.
mm.
And like the other day, I was reading this book by Stanley Tucci, who's an actor and he's a cook and stuff like this, you see. And he has all these recipes in his books. And he came up with this really nice minestrone. And I thought, oh, I'm going to make that. So I did. Anyway, but I love cooking. So when I was cooking, I decided I'm going to make this a sacred experience.
Yes,
And so I just, I didn't meditate on every vegetable, I just
but you
just was,
could.
yeah, well, I was
Everything.
just aware and I could feel, I was like I was in an altered state. I could feel spirit around me, I felt inspired, I felt relaxed, I felt, hey, this is a formula and I'm just throwing all these ingredients in, and like you do when you're cooking, you put some music on and you're just chilling and that type of thing. And it was fun, and so it wasn't just soup. It was like you felt you were eating an adventure, eating an experience, but you
Yeah.
put the essence, you put your soul into the energy of it. And that activates things. And we all often just go through the motions and we don't activate our experiences.
Mm,
And whether that's making minestrone or going to the gym or doing a meditation, people get so caught up into the routine of it.
mm,
And I've I laugh because sometimes when we've done public events, and Tabash will often get the audience to repeat something that he's saying, like a little mantra or something like that, you see. And on some occasions, there might be like 500 people in the room, but everyone's just sort of like drones again,
um,
like this. And Tabash
yeah.
starts laughing. And then he says, all right, stop. Now, now do it this way. Instead, you see, with a bit more enthusiasm, with a bit more feeling about this, like you really mean it.
Yeah.
And of course, everyone laughs. But when we do it in an attentive way, we're actually activating the power. And so many of us live our lives without the day being activated. It's just a day. It just is the routine, etc.
Mm,
So when we spend the moment at the beginning of the day projecting, activating, bouncing, okay, here's how the day's going to be, da 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 da. Well, you're activating the magic of the day. So
yes.
it doesn't become just a day. Even if you've got a mundane meeting, it
Mm,
suddenly becomes different because you feel different about it, the way you approach it.
mm.
And I think a lot of people put up with life as opposed to live life. Would you agree?
Agree. I agree. I think there's a lot of people that are in survival mode
Yeah, correct.
versus.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah, yeah. Now the living mode is obviously what it's all about. And again, getting back to self-development being the development of life. When you understand that and find your own ways of living that, then of course it changes your life
Mm,
because you become a lot more aware of what your potential is, but also you become aware of what you don't need to do, don't need to be, don't need to think
yes.
anymore. And again, I think, a lot of people are surrounded by stuff. Your life is full of stuff, that's ideas, feelings, people, situations, past, whatever. And I rather see it like being in a room and you're all crammed in there. like that, and there's just no more room for more growth and more development, or you're just over influenced by the energy of what was as
Mm.
opposed to what is. And that's the other point I'll make is in all these years I've been doing this, I realize that it's all about being in the present.
Yes.
It's never about what was, and it's certainly not about what could be. It's always about what is, because that's where we're living, and that's where that's what we're participating in. That's where the power is.
Mm. Mm.
The power is never over there. That's just an impression. We think nothing is there until we decide what's going to be there really. And we do that by being very much in the present. But I look at the way the world is, and a lot of people don't want to be in the present, so they find ways of escape, and which I think that's just tactics. Take us in away from you know the essential ingredient of, well, this is the situation now, and we're participating in this, we're involved in this, so therefore we can do actually something with this, we can benefit from this.
Mm.
And I know some people, well, how do we benefit from the conflicts and all that sort of stuff? And easily put, it makes you aware of yourself through your opinions, through your perspective, and it makes you look at natural changes you can make within yourself. I mean, our responses will always tell us about ourselves. And so, but we're so educated into, we're being told what to do and told what to be and all that sort of stuff, basically. And in the past, people really believed that and followed that. But now, we're more sophisticated and more intelligent and more aware. So therefore, it's hey, come on, take charge of who you are, what you think, what you feel, what you do,
Mm.
and have opinions and perspectives, but remind yourself that, oh, I actually have a choice in how I'm going to be with this. And I mean, I say this often to my friends when I see them getting so caught up into, bad relationships or jobs they hate and things like that. And coming from the angle that, I'm a victim and this is what people are doing to me and all that sort of stuff. And people do not like to hear that, well, no, this is happening because of you, you know? And so, but it's the way it is. But then when you get to a place of alignment, it's just what I was saying before about awareness, and just in your own way, what makes sense to you, what feels natural to you. And when you hit upon that energy, whatever it is, then I believe you owe it to yourself to be the best version of yourself in that as possible, but also knowing that you can advance that position, evolve that position.
Mm.
And which, I think at the moment there's a lot that's happening in the world that is counterproductive, but there's also a lot that's happening in the world that's really good.
Yes.
And but we tend to focus on what's wrong and, the negativity, and it's almost like people are being pulled into that frequency.
Mm.
And so I remember in the 1990s, Tabash did a talk, and he was actually talking, and I think it was 1993, about this time in history.
Oh, wow.
And he said that coming up over the next decades is a time of great division,
Mm.
where you have those who have the lights on and those who don't. And for those who don't, they just get caught up into the energy of conflict. And
Mm.
for those who do, well, then they turn their lights on, but get caught up into the energy of total transparency and self-responsibility, and the acknowledgement that they're 100% in charge of who they are, what they're all about, etc. And interesting because, as he said, for both of those vibrations, it's a challenge. And for those who haven't got the lights on, well, then that's their challenge. But for those who have to take 100% responsibility, then that's where they have this little conflict of interest going on, because, suddenly there's nothing to blame or fingers to point at, etc. It's literally about, okay, well, if I'm the power, and then it brings a lot of fear in people because they realize, well, I don't want to get it wrong.
Yes.
And so it's interesting. I mean, Tabash says enlightenment still needs to be managed.
Yeah.
And so it's very much about how and this is actually what I think where we're at now. How do we, I'll put it differently, how are we managing ourselves as
Mm.
individuals? And I think we only need to look at our day-to-day lives with their routines and patterns and just put to oneself, am I happy about the way I'm managing my life? Am I happy about how life is participating with me?
Mm.
And if one's not, then again, it's about, okay, stand still. And in my awareness, what simple ways can I change this? And obviously, at times it's just to change the thought.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be, suddenly rushing around altering your whole life. It's just knowing when to stand still and perhaps reorganize the way you think about something,
Mm.
and give yourself a moment to consider carefully that we all have lots and lots and lots of futures. But we get so overwhelmed by, the experiences of our present energies. It's sometimes hard to see that we have lots and lots of futures or that we have choices.
Mm.
And from a point of collectivity, I feel that humanity is making decisions as a collective. And because we can't sustain the way the world has been, it's putting too much pressure on everybody, mind, body, and spirit.
Right.
So it's simply because, you live by the old rules. And if you live by the old rules, but you are in a new version,
Exactly.
then, well, you're just not going to get anywhere. So that just won't make sense. So I think we're doing that. We're establishing a whole lot of new ways of thinking and feeling and living and being. And we're writing our own stories differently, and we're writing the collective story differently as well. And the more that we align and understand that we have people and energy to support us, then the easier it becomes for this to actually happen. I mean, when I first started in my own spiritual journey in the 1980s, all of this was sort of underground. And yeah, it was woohoo stuff,
Yeah.
pretty much. And it was hard because there wasn't a lot of literature out there. I mean, particularly in New Zealand. I mean, there was stuff overseas, but not New Zealand.
Mm.
And then, obviously it changed, but I remember when Shirley MacLaine's Out on a Limb film came up, and we managed to get a video of it. So we were having Shirley MacLaine evenings here at home, where we'd all watch, because it was like 4 hours or something. So we'd have 2 hours and then we'd all have dinner, and we'd watch the next 2 hours, you see. We had heaps and heaps of people coming through, and doing this, you see. And then they put it on television, but they put it on at something like 11 p.m.
Of course.
And so I actually rang up Television New Zealand. I said, this is a really good movie. Why have you got it on so late? And they just said, oh, there's no general interest in stuff like this. Anyway, so I just didn't say anything about that. But then about a month later, they repeated it, but they put it on prime time. And
Okay.
they realized they must have had a lot of feedback, and people wanted, this on. So that was a good indication of the way things were evolving, obviously. But when I look at people who are light workers now and channels and people who are evolving, it's much easier
Mm.
because, the collective energy is more doors are open. And whereas in my day, it was like you're sort of trying to bang against the door to open it. And yeah, so it's great to see how things have evolved, but it's still a process. And obviously not just in this country, but we're having to unite as a world
Mm.
to make things better. I did an event sometime this year, and one of the questions that was asked was, as individuals, you know, what can we do to make a difference with all the way the conflict is happening in the world? And actually, I think that was a question that was asked of Tabash, and he said, be the best version of yourself.
Yes.
You can't single-handedly go out there and change everything, in a literal sense. But, by living your life in the best way you can, then that's how you make a difference. Yeah. Yep.
Raise the frequency.
Yeah, 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 totally. So, I was just thinking, would you like to talk to Tabash as well?
I would love to talk to Tabash. I'm really enjoying talking to you. Are you ready
Oh,
to bring him
yeah,
through?
yeah. No, no, I'm sort of getting he's just saying, "Do you want me to
I'm
come through?"
here.
Yeah, I'm here. Well, he's always there. But, yeah, so you can and then I come back and you talk to me, so
Okay.
and, yeah, so, yeah, I'll bring them through. So for people who haven't perhaps seen this before, so what I do is I just close my eyes, and Spirit, many years ago, gave me this little phrase to think, which allows me as Blair to vacate my physical body. So basically what I do is that I expand my state of consciousness. So it's like paying attention to another aspect of myself. And as souls, we're everywhere. So we exist everywhere. So I don't actually leave my body. But what I do is that I expand my attention away from this level of consciousness. And then I pay attention to another level of consciousness. And it's rather like when you're watching television, you're on TV1 watching the news, but that doesn't mean all the other stations aren't happening. So it's just really a matter of flicking the station. So I just metaphorically flick the station, go on to another station, and then Tabash borrows the signal. So his energies, his states of consciousness pay attention in this way, basically. See, I'm a channel who allows spirit to use my body 100%.
Yes.
So I have no conscious memory of what spirit says. And yeah, so Tabash is a total different personality from me because many people have asked me, "Oh, isn't he just an aspect of you?" And I
Totally
say, "No,
different.
he's not. And I mean, it's funny, even people who are open, they go like, huh, how does that work? You know? And which always surprises me when they ask that. Tabash is definitely Tabash and Blair is definitely Blair.
Yes.
And so he's not a version of myself. He's not an aspect of myself. I'm not channeling a past life when I was Tabash.
That's good
So
to, that's good to clarify because some channels do that.
oh, look, I understand 100%, basically, you
Yeah.
see. Anyway, so I'll bring him through and, yep, have fun, and I'll see you on the other end. Okay, bye for
Awesome.
now. Bye-bye. Hello.
Hi.
Nice to see everybody. I'll just have some water.
Same.
Everybody is always channeling. You are source power, and that source power, as Blair just said before, you exist everywhere. And so in every life you live, you are accessing all of life. But you are also accessing all experiences, all thoughts, all feelings, all words. Obviously not consciously, because you would go mad if you did that. And instead, what you do is when you think about the personality that you possess in each incarnation and all the roles that go with that, then every day you wake up, you're just drawing from the cornucopia of your own life's experiences. And that's where humans often say, oh, where did that thought come from? Or where did that feeling come from? Or where does this talent come from? And so on and so forth. And so information, feelings, attitudes, whatever, you're drawing from the opportunities that are you. And when you have a good sense of self, then you're able to pull in really good energies, really good vibrations.
Mm.
Whereas for most humans, they tend to be rather random
Mm.
in what they're bringing in. And even, some strong spiritual people can be too random. And think about the God vibration, which is what you're drawing from. It's a very specific frequency.
Mm.
There's nothing random about it. It's highly certain of its position.
Mm.
And its position means it's investing in itself from that frequency. Always. And so you're doing the same thing. And so when you come into a lifetime, remember, you've done that because it's a choice you're making. And from the moment you come into your physical body, that's just another state of consciousness. So you're still a soul who's everywhere else as well, but your attention is on that lifetime and that focus and so on and so forth. And, of course, people say, Why am I here? What's my purpose? Why do I choose to? And all that sort of stuff. And I like to say, well, you're here because it's a choice,
Mm,
not because you have to, not because you've got this heavy karma to deal with, etc., etc. It's always a choice
mm,
because there's a great deal that you can resolve without reincarnating. But
mm,
then people like being on Earth because it's unique. It gives you a way of taking yourself as a soul and finding a literal physical way of experiencing it
mm,
within the laws of physics. When you align to your source consciously, then you take your power and it enhances all those qualities, all those abilities. So, say if you play piano and you're just doing it as human, and you make nice noises and sounds and all that sort of stuff. But then you decide, oh, I'm God doing this. And then you're like, oh, great virtuoso on the piano, you see. And so you bring a passion, you bring an essence because you're tapping into the music in you from lifetimes. You're tapping from the music of consciousness
mm,
and you bring extraordinary sounds. And you look at not just past, but even present, specific entertainers, musicians, artists, etc., who just bring a specific frequency in that touches people's souls,
mm,
and because that soul has so developed their skills and their aptitudes through other incarnations that suddenly, you know, when you hear what they play, it alters your state of consciousness.
yes.
When you hear the way they sing, it's like a voice from heaven, as you people say. And
Mhm,
not just in sounds and things, but actions, attitudes, politicians, writers, etc. People who are inspirational,
mm,
in some specific ways that stand out more.
mm,
And so humans always will have stand out experiences and stand out people, etc. Because it's saying to you, it activates something. It wakes you up. Oh, that makes me want to feel I could do more and be more and all that sort of stuff.
mm,
So it's a way of activating something in you.
mm,
And so because this is such a activating time in human history, then if you have your awareness of how you're channeling life through you daily, the power of life, and again, it's not always, oh, I must go and have more meditations or more prayers or whatever like that, you see. It's like, I know I'm gonna need to get my nails done, but I'll be God doing it, you know? And so
yes.
so so it's just practical. So using it in practical ways,
Mm,
so it's just I'm making it a way of living. I'm
mm,
making it the way I breathe, the way I walk, the way I'm living my life. And when you do it in that way, then you just activating the power of consciousness through you all the time. So you're channeling God's power through you. You're
mm,
channeling your experiences, your talents, your skills, etc.
mm,
So channeling isn't just about channeling spiritual entities and energies from the Akashic records and stuff like that. And not everybody can do that or
mm,
needs to do it because
mm,
it's not specific to their energies. The amount of times people have said to Blair, "Oh, can you teach me how to channel like you do?"
right.
And he says, "Look, it's not as easy as that because something like this, it's a vocation."
Mm,
And so when you have a vocation for something, it means I've definitely come onto the planet to do this. And for a lot of people, they just see it as a little sideline thing or something they
yeah.
want to experience or whatever. And if you don't have a talent for something, you don't have a talent for something, whether it's channeling or playing the violin or cooking or sports or whatever.
Yes.
And it's fascinating, how people want to keep pursuing things which they're just not good at, you know? And then somebody even said to me, yeah, but if you're God, can't you do those things? And as I said, yeah, but when you're God incarnate in a particular way, you come with a particular package.
Mm,
And therefore, you want to fulfill yourself in that way. So pay attention to that which you will be fulfilled in, and don't get sidetracked by trying to be something else or think in another way or whatever. It's like if you are an academic naturally, then you're God being an academic. And if you're a creative person, you're God being a creative person. And so, but it doesn't mean deny yourself of anything. But self-development teaches you to recognize, oh yeah, these are my skills. This is what feels natural to me. This is what my abilities are. Just makes me think of when parents are bringing their children up. As their children get older, they start recognizing natural talents that these children have. And so as these children come forth with these abilities, then say a little girl who loves sports, and yet the parents go, oh, no, 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 we don't want you to play rugby. We want to send you to ballet classes or tap dancing classes or those types of things. And the little girl's like, yeah, whatever, and so that's stereotypes. Little girls do this and little boys do that, basically.
Yes.
But of course now it's different because it's just like the blend. Boys can do everything, girls can do everything. And so parents owe it to themselves to observe their children, see what's natural to them, and then in their own ways encourage them, and never say, this is what I want you to do, this is what I want you to be, but more, and everyone's guilty of this. So I'm not pointing any fingers, by the way.
Is this a reading? No, I'm joking.
Yeah. But it's more a matter of, oh yeah, I see this in you. What do you think about this? And I'm here to support you. Not and don't be silly about it, because when you're young, you pick up something, you put it down. You pick up something, you put it down, and so gradually you sift out what makes sense to you. And that's actually a really good word for this life and everyone's living. It's like, what makes sense to who you are and to what you think and to what you feel and to what you be. And when you look at what makes sense to you, that's when you have to observe before you act. Yeah, well, it makes sense to me, but just because something makes sense to me, it doesn't mean that's what I have to do. And that's where humans can be too premature and maybe involving themselves or signing themselves up for something. You see, I'll tell you a very funny story about this at his cost. And so anyway, he's been channeling me all these years and years and years and stuff like this. Anyway, and he loves to be stimulated intellectually. And so he was thinking, oh, maybe I'll do an online psychology course. That might be interesting, you see. Anyway, so he found the thing and he paid his money and anyway, so he got into the energy of it, basically, you see. But then when it came to some of the questions and things like that, and he found that his God brain was just kicking in, and it came up with this thing about they were just using this as an example about human behavior and reactions, and some true story about some woman who'd been stabbed in New York in the middle of the street, and all these people were watching, but no one paid any attention. And then from a psychological perspective, you had to say, what was all about. Well, Blair's brain just kicked into, I wonder what the karma of that person was and everyone who was involved and all that sort of, but of course, he couldn't write that in the paper, you see.
Yes.
And in the end, even though he paid like a couple $1,000 to do this course, he never did it because he found there's this big tug of war going on between the God in him and trying to fit that into that energy and that way of thinking. And so you realize that if something it's not natural to you, then you realize there's no way I can invest in that energy. And as people have seen in relationships, in certain jobs, in certain circumstances, and I look at people who are make it work, etc., etc. But if you know, you know. But then, of course, this is where all the dismantling and fear and all that sort of stuff comes into this. But then, if you look at your lives and you've tied yourself into some sort of knot or locked yourself into some sort of experience, then you still have freedom and you still have a choice. But then a lot of people make, I suppose, a security of what they are in, and they don't believe, or they know that they can, but they just don't have it in them to take that step because, oh, it's too hard, and I don't want to start all over again, etc., etc. And then you don't need to, but what you can do is, rather than seek for a solution of something, why not just seek for a way of relieving yourself in a simple way? So you take certain steps. Well, okay, I'll do what I can, how I can, in the way that I can. And that way I'm evolving and I'm growing, and, you don't have to let all and sundry know. You're just quietly getting on and making your shifts and changes, you see. And every moment of your existence, you're making decisions about how to think, how to feel, how to live, how to be. And at times, sometimes one have to make fundamental decisions where you suddenly get to a certain point in your life, about this, where it's like, oh, hang on a minute, what am I doing? Where am I standing? And here's all these possible futures. But don't measure them in what's the right decision. It's more, okay, based on where I'm standing right now and my thoughts, feelings, and attitudes, what can I make possible? And without having to make some big commitment to something or make some massive decision. You say, okay, well, I'll take some steps. And as I'll take some steps, then I keep on just reviewing my possibilities, etc. And then at some point, you're going to know for certain, yes or no.
Yeah.
But human nature puts pressure on themselves. I'm going to make a decision.
Can't jump all in.
Yeah. And I find this a fascinating word when it comes to people's situations like that. But I'm on a deadline, and I'm so, yeah, deadline is the right word. So I would say, no, you're on a lifeline.
Yes.
And you're feeding yourself, which means you have choices.
Yes.
And therefore, observe, stand still, think, feel, align the energies. Oh yeah, what feels natural to me? What makes me? Oh no, but they want me to do this, or that is what's called upon, etc. And of course, some people get persuaded by outside circumstances, or other people's energies, or other people's displeasures, etc. And so you can't sustain that sort of vibration now. This is why this is a time for people to, be realistic about it. Stand in your vibration. Stand truthfully in who you're. This is who I am, where I stand, etc., etc. And look, as we've written in a book, there will always be people who disagree with who you are, what you think, what you feel, what you do. You will be challenged with this. But it's not about turning the other cheek. It's about finding ways of making a stand without conflict.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's different to every individual. And so I mean, it's a time of empowerment. It's a time of activation. It's a time of awareness. It's a time of enlightenment. It's a time of experiencing life in a extraordinary formula. And you are the formulas. And so when you see it from that perspective, then that's when you've got to stand still and put to yourself, okay, today, what's the formula that will work for me? And if I can feed my mind, feed my body, feed my spirit, then I know that I'm going to create a good formula just for this day. And if I'm true in myself, I will establish good results. And then at the end of the day, I can see I've had a results day. And because of that, I'm evolved. But before I go to my sleep, I must complete that energy. So I just empty myself of the day's energy. So when I wake up the next morning, different day, different formula.
Yeah.
And not the same rules, because it's impossible. So each day you wake up, oh, here's life again. And then that's when you look at the systems and the structures and your ideas, etc. And of course, inevitably, your mind and your body and your spirit selves are so integrated that you just walk around living and knowing. You just know what to do and know what to think and know what to feel, because you're resonating that frequency. That is what you humans call the law of attraction. So if you're attracted life through you, you're channeling the power of life. So you are all knowing. And then in all knowing, you are all thinking and all feeling and all being. And people would say to you, Catherine, how is it that you know so much? And you say, because I am God. And it's just the way it is. Some people are going to go like this. Is there any questions you want to put to me or comments you would like to make? I have water.
I think my one question is how do we differentiate between somebody being in alignment with source and knowing that they're God and someone actually having a mental health issue? I think that's
Yep,
something that
yep,
we've
yep.
got.
Well, again, this is interesting because some mental health issues are just when people are out of sync and they're not really following through what their mind, body, and spirit energies are saying. And then you have literal physical mental health problems, which is a disease. And so people have an imbalance within their system, which brings about certain states of mental distress, disease. And this is where you get sickness like schizophrenia and things of psychosis, et cetera, et cetera. So that's often brought about by a certain chemistry in the person's system or frequencies that are going through the brain that creates a disturbance as such, you see.
Mm.
And any situation like that often needs medical assistance to bring a balance into things, you see. And if not, then this is where the person can get into huge psychosis and create problems and become very violent and aggressive and depressed and all that sorts of stuff, basically, you see. And of course, for mental health issues, and I think this word mental health issues, humans are bandying around this too much, because it's often a way where people are using this as a bit of an excuse not to pay attention to themselves,
Mhm.
and there's all due respect to people's issues, etc. You got to ask yourself, particularly if you're a spiritual person, I know I can't go to work saying I'm suffering from mental health issues, you know, and then sometimes that's just, I just don't want to go to work today,
Yeah.
and so, but, you got to be careful about what you say, because when you project certain vibrations, then invariably
Mm.
that becomes your life. And
Ah,
so you can actually create problems because of that, you see,
ah,
and so, if you take the formula and if you're feeding the mind, body, spirit, you will never have any forms of out of alignment. So you will not have mental health issues. You will not have physical issues. You will be living your life, basically, see. Okay, and I
yes.
know a lot of people don't want to hear that. They think that, that's really insensitive and you're not respecting my issues and all that sort of stuff, basically, you see. But look, we have great respect for people's problems and great
Absolutely.
respect for people's disharmonies and disissues and distresses and diseases and all that sort of stuff, basically, you see. And perhaps humans have too much respect for their own issues. And they need to respect more life.
Yes.
But look, it's all the balance of power.
Uh,
And look, there's enough on this planet to make anyone go crazy, mind, body, or spirit. With all the stresses and anxieties and fears and worries and things of that nature, basically, you're under such pressure. But
mm,
you can take the pressure off by just standing still and turning the lights on.
yes.
And that's not a difficult thing to do. It's not rocket science. Being God is not a hard thing to do. And it's a very simple formula, but people have made it so complicated. But it's not. It's just the way everything is. It's just a word. And you are all that vibration. And when you tap into that and you find your own ways of relating to it, then
Mm.
you activate within you the way that you want to take the power and decide what to do with it. And so, I've talked to a lot of highly evolved spiritual people who are really good bankers
Okay.
and multimillionaires and great accountants and have high positions in governments and the world and stuff like that. But they just quietly get on their way
Mm.
and just live their lives and do their things and serve in their own ways. And like I said to before, truth needs no publicity.
Yes.
You just quietly live your life, have your experiences, but some like to be public with it, like Shirley MacLaine, where she went public with her spiritual belief systems, and others just stay in the background. And that's not because they're frightened of disclosure or being ridiculed or anything of that nature. It's just no big deal.
Yeah. Right.
It's just I'm just living my life.
Mm.
And therefore this is who I am, and this is what I think, and this is what I feel, and this is but I'm not going to go out there and, announce it all the time.
Mm.
And that's why I always think that, if you just quietly get on and just be yourself, that's good enough. And not
Yeah.
everyone needs to be a public persona or public speaker or all that sort of stuff, you see. And because it's not necessary.
Mm.
And also too, as I said before, you got to look at what's natural to me.
Yes.
And I'll bring Blair back in a minute, but that's something that I'll say to your audience, which is use this time, perhaps the rest of the year, to be more conscious of what
Mm.
feels natural to me, to my mind, to my body, to my spirit.
Mm.
And within reason, suddenly you can't say, oh, it's not natural for me to have children, so they're out, they're going. So you have responsibilities.
Yeah,
but
right. Don't
yeah,
ditch the kids.
yeah, don't ditch the kids, don't ditch the job, don't ditch the husband or the wife or whatever. It's
Yeah.
more of a matter of, you know, what is my attitude? What is my story? Am I living my life in a way where I'm being true to myself and natural, to who am I? Which means, regardless of my circumstances, I can still find ways of being myself and
Yeah.
still be a good mother or a good father and be good in my job and all that sort of. But I'm bringing an essence through which amplifies my skills, my abilities, and in my own way, I'm just turning more and more lights on all of the time. And so, don't give up your day job and become an aromatherapist necessarily, unless it's natural for you to become an aromatherapist, but people have to step back and just do a lot of reorganizing, at this particular point, and this is very much what humans are doing at this point. They are reorganizing their stories.
Mm.
And as they do that, then of course that has an influence on how you're all organizing the big story that is called how we are all on this planet and what our roles are and how we have an input into all of the changes that are occurring
Mm.
because you all do. Remember, the world is how it is because of how everyone is.
Yeah.
And so when people turn more lights on and people are sharing that energy, then the world changes. And it doesn't take much to actually do that. I think that from my perspective, it would only take 1% of the world's population in an aligned position to change everything. But to try to get 1% of the world's population to focus on that simultaneously is very difficult.
Okay.
And if you think about yourself, it only takes 1% of you to change you.
Ah.
But then, you're pretty good, but you still get scattered.
Yeah, I
And
do.
so it's literally, and also or you over focus. You think, well, I got to focus on 60% or 80% or aim for 100%. Well, if you only need to do 1%, then that 1% is really powerful, and that will send the message out to the other 99% of you or life or whatever.
Yeah.
And so it's where I really am strong about this because I think people put too much effort into things. And to try to remember this, and I've got to have more meditations and more healing and more all that sort of stuff. And I just see people winding themselves up through self-development,
Ah.
which it never was set up for that. It's just you're just going into the room and turning the light on for goodness sake. And what could be simpler? So all of you wondrous people, just go into your metaphoric room of life and just find the light switch and turn it on. And then when you do, observe first. Oh, what's in the room?
Mm.
And then consider consciously what you want from the room, and then do what makes your soul sing. Don't
Yeah.
put up with anything, or I'm going to go over there before I go over there. Just go over there, and of course, we'll help and assist and guide and all that sort of stuff. So blessings to you. I'll bring Blair back now, and
Beautiful.
yeah, it's been a joy. Thank you for allowing us to have this narrative with you. It's been a pleasure. So. All right, I'll bring Blair back and, he can talk to you. Okay, bye for
Lots
now.
of love
Goodbye.
to you.
Thank you so
Bye.
much. Goodbye. Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
That was fabulous as always.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so always feel a bit spacey when I channel, but in a good way, you
Man.
know. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's good to yeah, yeah, I feel very fortunate to be in this position that I am, and it certainly changed my life, and I've seen how it's changed other people's lives as well,
Okay.
and that's a good thing, and one of the things Tabash has always said, and other spirit teachers, is that we are all here to serve each other. So yeah, just keep finding ways of doing that, basically, in our own ways, basically. So look, thank you so much for allowing me to speak. It's been really, really great. I love doing stuff like this.
Oh, thank you so much. You know how blessed and privileged I feel to have had you here with us, with all of us. And I know you're going to have turned many lights on for many people today. So thank
Oh,
you.
that's wonderful. But let's do it again.
Yes, please.
Yeah, yeah,
Yay.
yeah, 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 yeah. I think it's really essential that we use this type of media to, you know, for want of a better cliche, get the message out there to bring awareness to people. Just through chats,
Yeah.
without not always having to be, a big event or a seminar or all that sort of stuff. You see,
Yeah.
and of course, in situations like this, it activates people's energies in an easy way, a simple way.
Wow.
Because a lot of people can't, go to an event or reach a certain place or whatever. So,
Absolutely.
using social media and things of this nature is just such a easy way of, turning some lights on, basically. So, I honor you for what you're doing and the way you're lifting consciousness. And, I just think it's so exciting when we can all collaborate like this. And I've always been a great believer in collaboration with other workers. And I know some people work in different ways. It's like, no, this is my show. But, the way I like to put it, it's like, no, this is our show.
Yes.
We're all here to, you know, be together and do what we can. And so, for a long time, I've tried to organize something where you have on stage where there's, like quite a few light workers who are on stage doing their own things, but just the politics of it and the logistics of it and people with their opinions and perspectives and things like that, trying to get everyone, to do that is really difficult because everyone, no, I do it this way or I do it that way as such. But that's okay, it will happen,
I
at
think
some
so, because
particular
that's
point.
definitely on my list of things that I'd like to accomplish.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Tabash loves that. He loves incorporating himself. I remember when we used to have a radio program and here in Wellington. And it started off as it was called Talking with Tabash. And it started off with me introducing everything and telling people about what was going on in Wellington spiritually, et cetera, et cetera. See? And then, Tabash would come through. And in those days, we opened up the phone line so people could ring and ask some questions, you see, and thinking that people were going to, ask spiritual questions. But in the end, it ended up being like this sort of agony aunt thing where people were wanting to know when their house was going to sell and all that sort of stuff. So we changed the format. And so in the end, we got Tabash to interview people. I have a huge cross section of people that I know. So we had some really fascinating people on. But one time there was a woman who was a channel from England. So she came on the program. And so she channeled her spirit. Tabash and the spirit were actually chatting together on air, you see. So Tabash was interviewing the other entity.
I love it.
And I love what I do. It was just, it was just one of the, I mean, can you imagine? It's a bit like, on stage, announcing Jesus and Buddha together in a concert,
Yeah. They're sending masters all in one room.
Well, I mean, I've done recently up at Living and Giving, Nancy Barclay's place, where Yeshua and Tabash were there together and answering questions and talking together. I've done that twice actually with Nicole, and so yeah, why not? So it's like you've got these two entities, historic entities, on stage having a bit of a chat together, you know, about life and energies and all that sort of stuff, basically. So, but yeah, I mean, to me, this is just normal. So it's like, hey, just bring it on. I'm in full agreement with that. Anyway, I'll love you and leave you. So
Okay.
it's
Thank you so much.
thank you so much, and to everybody, We've had another year. It's been challenging, but it's been enthralling as well, because I think we've all grown, we've all evolved, and I think we're all in a more honest place than we have been. But that honesty can sometimes come across like it's really raw. And so I think we are all a bit exhausted, through the whole process. I can be emotional talking about this, through this whole process of what we're going through, but it's worth it. It really is worth it. And I've seen it. I've seen the worth of this from information from spirit, but also when I channel, I go into spirit and I've been shown things, and it's worth it. And we are turning corners, but we need to take more responsibility for our day-to-day lives, how we think, how we feel, how we live, how we're doing the driving. Keep it basic, keep it easy, keep it simple. But remember, it's our choice, not spirit's choice, not the universe's choice, but our choices as individuals. And when we make good choices, then we open up to the power that is actually there. So our responsibility lays within ourselves. The power lays within ourselves. And of course, we're open to everything else because of that, basically. But if we rely on what's out there and not rely on ourselves, then, we can't access it. And I read something somewhere the other day, and it was just some little clip on something. It was about manifestation and the need to change things and heal and stuff. And it said, none of that will work if you don't believe in yourself. And if you're trying to manifest from a point of hope or it will be done to me, it won't work, because it starts with you. And Yeshua, Jesus said, when he healed people, he would look at them in the eyes and he would say, do you believe? And he wasn't saying, do you believe in me? He was looking at their souls. Do you believe in you?
Yes.
And if they believed in themselves, then the power that he was sending to them they would reach up to it, and it would connect.
Yes.
But you look at, I mean, I've had people come up to me who know what I do in social circumstances and go, oh, I hear your channel, da, da, da. Or tell me something about myself that no one knows, sort of stuff like this. And I'm just oh, sorry, a lot of people know that. I would too, actually.
Do you say to yourself, how did I draw that in?
Well, yeah, I suppose it comes with the territory, basically, you see. But I always find it fascinating when people do say things like that, that they're just so confrontational about it and negative about it. I mean, I don't mind people saying things, but they could at least be pleasant about it. But it's just such a thing. So, all right, lots of love, and till next time. Okay, have an awesome day, everybody. Make it work for yourself.
What a powerful korero. Such a beautiful reminder that we are all gods in motion, creating, learning, and evolving every single day. A huge thank you to Blair Styra for joining me and for sharing his wisdom, his humor, and the incredible teachings of Tabash. If you'd like to connect with Blair or learn more about his work, you can find him online at tabash.com. And if this episode resonated with you, please share it with someone whose light you'd love to see switched on. You can also follow Catherine Parslight on Spotify, YouTube, or on my Facebook page, or check out my website at catherineparslight.com. Please join our growing community of awakening souls. You are all welcome. Until next time, remember, you are the light. You are the creator. You are God experiencing itself through you. Modi order.